And welcome to our Abundant Retirement Podcast with me, Tony Roberts, and as always, our host, the other Tony in the group, Mr. Tony Shore, who's commanding the control center out of our Minneapolis backroom offices. And as always, whether you're watching, whether you're listening to our podcast, each and every week we come to you, hopefully with some topics that can give you some insight on a more successful financial and retirement plan, and hopefully today we can hit on some things that might help you in that manner as well. So as we get ready to get started, I always, as I said before, I always like to welcome Mr. Tony Shore from our control center and our host of the most, and who just recently back from Palm Springs, rested,
Yes,
relaxed a little. You can see the gradient glow on that face of his.
that's
Oh
true.
my gosh. How you doing,
That
man?
that is true. Well, we were fortunate that my wife had a business trip, a conference in Palm Springs, California,
Oh wow.
and probably my favorite. If you're gonna go to California, that's the place, in my opinion. And I love it out there. We swam a lot. We ate great food. If you like shopping, if you like the outdoors, we went to Joshua Tree a
Yeah.
national park, which
Yeah.
is beautiful, and drove through. So awesome! We had a great trip. Took our daughters with. So while the wife was working or going to seminars, we were out cruising around, shopping, playing pickleball, mainly in the swimming pools. Though it's hot this time of year in the desert.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's,
yeah,
it's 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 as we talked a little bit before we got started, Tony. It's hot everywhere, man. It's uh
that's that's
it's
true.
uh it's crazy. But
Out there, it's a
you know,
dry heat, though. I'll
yeah,
be honest. I'll take 100 and dry heat
yeah,
rather than 89 or 90 and humid like
humid.
it
Yeah.
has been.
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
the humidity's been something else here, but that's part of it.
killer.
Hey, listen, while you were gone though, the markets hit record highs across the board.
They
So
did. I saw that.
it's sort of interesting in looking back, 2, 3, 4 months when we had March and April and the markets all bottoming out and everybody all concerned about the tariffs and where are we going and what's happening, and boom, here we are 3 months later, and market highs again, and tariff deals being signed to the U.S.'s advantage in most cases. So, again, whether you like him or not, Tony, when you got a businessman running the country, he does make the deals, and and most of the time those deals are good for us. So, again, maybe the personality likes some places, but the boy does know how to conduct business. That is for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and so it'll be interesting to see where it goes once some of the new tariffs
Yeah,
supposedly hit, I should say,
yeah,
in here in a couple of weeks. Right now, it looks like things are holding steady. The market they hit highs, like you
yeah,
said. It's
yeah,
amazing. So
yeah.
we'll see where we go from here, but it's more than made up for. April when we had some down markets, right?
Thank goodness. I actually had one of my clients look at me, and we were talking last week, and he sat there and he said, Tony, you told me back in April if just hold tight, and probably by June or July everything would be back to normal again. He reminded me of that, and I said, Tom, every now and then, we guess right, we guess right every now and then, so it's part of it. But no, it's
Yeah.
all the groundwork was there for us to come back. It was just Tony, we've been this long enough. The market always reacts to uneasiness and tries to look down the road 3, 4, 6 months to see how he thinks things are going to project out, and that's what they did back in April.
Yeah.
But again, this thing has churned itself through. Country's doing good, markets are doing good. Most people who want to work are working and finding themselves making some good monies. The bill that was packed is giving some breaks to people that, as were promised, with like with income from tips and certain other types of things where people aren't getting beat up on the lower end from taxes and things like that. So yeah, I think I'm cautiously optimistic about where we are as a country and where we're going over the next few years, and I think we'll be better down the road for all of it. So that's
Yeah.
good. That's all
Yeah.
good from that
Yeah, and
standpoint.
there's the big beautiful bill, the taxes got extended So the tax cuts got extended, which is good.
Yep.
And I think there's a lot there. They added a $6,000 additional deduction, a bonus deduction for those over 65. That's one of the good things from the bill. But I mean, I'll tell you, a 970-page bill. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. There's going to be stuff in there that you hate and stuff in there that you love. And yeah, I mean, the Democrats are going to love some of the stuff that ended up in the bill, and they're going to hate a lot of the stuff that ended up in the bill. And it's the same with Republicans, right?
No, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
And you think there's a little pork? You think there's a little pork hanging out in the bill there? And Tony, by mentioning that, I know
we'll discover it as we go.
Yeah, and I know we've got another topic for the day, but and I know we hit on, I think, a couple of weeks ago, maybe just an overview of maybe 3 or 4 issues on the bill. But I was actually notified this morning of a white paper that we have available to us that goes into considerably more detail of outlining what exactly is in that bill. So
Sure.
What I might do is take a look at that this week and pass it up to you. And maybe over the next 1 or 2 weeks, we might dive a little deeper into what actually went into the bill in some future podcasts.
Yeah, I think we should do that. There's been some things revealed, and Congress has clarified a few things that are in the bill that were confusing. So, yeah, let's do that. And that white paper is a good one. I think I know the one you're talking about, but send that to me. And for our listeners and viewers out there, we'll break it down in more detail because more and more information is becoming available and they're clarifying things. So I think that's a good idea to dig in a little deeper. But for today, you mentioned tips earlier. Speaking of tips, these tips aren't taxed. You can listen to these tips and view them at no charge right here, only your time. And that's tips for a productive retirement. Where do you want to begin with this today, Tony?
Well, I tell you what, Tony, it never fails that I'll have people that will ask me, when do you start thinking about retirement, and when do you start making sure that you've got your things put together right and all this other stuff? And my answer is always a couple of things. If you're young, like my daughters, and just getting started in the work world and different things like that, I mean, you're sort of looking at a picture that might be 30 or 40 years in width. And while they can't, pinpoint exactly when retirement's going to happen or what it's going to look like 30 or 40 years down the road, they can start doing things today, especially when it comes to saving for retirement and utilizing, strategies such as Roth and things like that. I think that those are very, very important to get your tax-free accounts built up and things like that for down the road. But for the most part, Tony, we deal with people that are probably 50 and over, who are within 2, 3, 4, 5 years of retirement, and they're trying to sort of make that last segment of work really, really come around to them, so that when they do get ready to retire, they've got everything in place, and it becomes seamless in going from getting up at 6 o'clock every morning and hitting that that work world at 8 o'clock versus hitting that alarm snooze button and getting up at 8 and having the first cup of coffee. So again, there's a few things here that I think people can recognize. Some of them you might sit there and say, well, that's pretty obvious or common sense wise, but I think there's some things that people can reevaluate and look at a little more deeply and closely right now that can help them down the road when it comes time to actually hit the retirement trail.
There you go. Start early. And I love that. As I always say, plan early, plan often, save early, save often, but plan for retirement as soon as possible. The best time to start was probably at least 20 years ago. Like planting a tree, the best time to plant a tree, Tony, was 20 years ago.
Exactly right.
But the
second best time is today, man.
Today. The second best time is right now. Get started, and it isn't tough if you work with a trusted professional who does this day in and day out. And I'm not going to name names, Tony Roberts, but I happen to know a guy, right? I mean, you need to have a team built, and an independent financial advisor, a fiduciary who's going to look out for your best interest, family members. Obviously, communication with the spouse is a big one, right? You've probably seen this where one person will come in and want to plan, or they have an idea of a retirement, and then you meet with both, and one's like, well, I don't want to retire that early, or I didn't think we were retiring that early, or I thought we'd one person wants to work till they're 70, the other wants to retire at 62. So you need to kind of be on the same page. You don't have to both retire at the same time, though, right?
Tony, I'm grinning inside, and for anybody that can see me, they can see. But I'll take myself and my wife case point. I remember when we were going to Europe for the first time, I don't know, 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And our girls were small. And of course, I don't know what it is about taking major trips. You always feel like you've got to get your whole entire life in order in case you don't come
Yes,
back.
right.
But I remember us taking our initial stab at estate planning before we left on this trip to go to Europe. And, I met with our attorney the first couple of 2 or 3 times to sort of get the overview in place and things like that. And then I had Alita come in, and we sat down with him, and all of a sudden we're sitting there, and she jumps out of her seat and goes out of the conference room. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? And so I go out there, and she's got tears going down her face. And I said, what is wrong with you? And she says, all of this stuff seems like such finality. She says,
Oh,
I don't want to die. I don't want to not be around my girls. And
oh,
and I'm like, babe, listen, this is just taking care of stuff in case something happens. And the chances of anything happening are so remote, so
yeah,
remote. But
yeah,
again, you just want to make sure that it's in charge. So again, Tony, I tell that story. Now, come full circle 25 years later, and we are in the process again of updating all of our estate planning stuff. And guess who's driving that boat? It's not me, brother. It's her. So, she's gotten
yeah,
over the tears, and now
yeah,
she's all concentrating about, hey, if something happens to you, something happens to me, I want to make sure this thing is nip and tuck and nothing is going to be left to chance,
yeah,
because again, we've been very blessed. We've been very successful. And, the more you have to say grace over it sometimes, Tony, is the more problems and issues that you got to say
sure,
grace over as well. So yeah, it's important. And starting early, not only with the planning for the financial side, but I just sort of hit on, you've got to make sure that legal piece is running concurrent
sure,
with the financial. But ask questions, get around, get surround yourself with professionals that can lift you up. I mean,
yeah,
Tony, myself, I've got CPAs, I've got tax attorneys, I've got estate planning attorneys. They are all part of my team because I cannot know everything about everything. And
but they're there
so,
to help your clients and the
exactly
people
right.
you work with, because that's their team. You and the people you have there can help them with this. So as far as tax professionals, estate planning attorneys, Medicare specialists, all of these to
All of it.
help them with the retirement planning.
Exactly right. And by having that team concept, you can sit there and lay things on them and just, and say, hey, look, I'm not to the point of knowledge on this issue that I need to be, but it is your specialty. I need your feedback. I need your
Yeah,
help to allow me to make the best decision possible. And so again, I always try to relate that to the people that we work with. We're just one part of your professional team that is going to, give you specialization. We're going to sit there and talk about issues and details and strategies that you may or may not be aware of that can possibly help you. We're going to lay everything out on the table. And then again, if we're having trouble of making decisions and things like that, and we need to bring in the CPA or the attorney or whatever the case may be, that's what we're there for. So at the end of the day, we just want everything to be as best possible that it can be, so that we put all of this puzzle, so to speak, together for you in a proper manner. And again, you hit it off. Starting early, you really can't start too early because it takes a while to put all this together. I equate this to running a marathon, Tony. I wish we could get things done like you do in a sprint, but sometimes you just got to, take chunks as they come to you, and hopefully by 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months down the road, you've got things put together pretty tight and sound and secure, along with giving the ability to make changes as life goes on. Because whether you're working or whether you retire, this thing called life will still throw some curveballs every now and then that we need to take care of.
Yeah.
So yeah, do start early. Be open and honest with the people that you're working with. Tony, I know you've probably seen this, but I've seen it so often, in that people always have a tendency, they want to keep things in their back pocket or not reveal. And it's like, hey, you can sort of take and look at this piece, but we're going to keep this one over here under the shelf, and things like that. So again, when you're looking at doing proper planning, you sort of got to know what all things look like behind the cupboard door, and those are things that we try to do. So be open and honest. For those of you all who are listening out there that have spouses, uh, understand that your vision of your future may be different than what your spouse's is,
Yeah.
and vice versa. And sometimes that causes conflict. Sometimes that causes for additional conversation that needs to be had, to say, hey, look, the way I understood this thing was going to go down, it was this, but now it looks like it's coming down in another way. Is everybody on board with that? Is everyone happy with that? Because again, just because maybe one spouse has been more of a breadwinner, maybe another spouse has been more of taking care of the home and raising the children and doing the hard job. There just may be different ideas about what the future is going to hold and how it's going to present itself. So again, be open and honest, have good conversation. Don't be mad. Don't raise your voice. Don't. I heard something the other day at church, Tony, in a Bible study I went to, but it talked about conflict. And I never heard it put like this, but the number one reason for conflict is the underlying issue that everybody wants to be right.
Yep.
I think my way is right. I want to be right. And if that doesn't agree with what you think is right, then guess what? I'm right, you're wrong, we've got conflict. I never heard it put like that, but one of the big issues of conflict is somebody digging their heels in and saying, I'm right, you're wrong, what's wrong with you? So again, be open, be honest, be willing to listen and understand that other people may have a voice, other people may have some ideas that really resonate and may be better than your ideas. So again, I think it's very important that especially if you've got a spouse, significant other that you're trying to work through these things with, that you make sure that everyone is being heard and being respected of their opinions and their concerns. So do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
once you
mean, you
sort of
have
put
to.
things together, start reviewing them, make sure
Yeah.
things stay the way they're supposed to, and that should be done on a regular basis. I guess, Tony, with the estate planning, you could probably maybe review every 2 to 5 years. With us, it was all about the girls. As you know, when it's a different when you put an estate plan together when your girls are 9 and 5 versus when they're 29 and 25.
Oh, yeah.
So again, those are things, and the same situation with your family and things like that.
Yep.
So, those are different things that we talk about.
Yeah, I think that's important. Everybody's situation is going to line up differently, and you're also to have a successful retirement. It's not just about how much money you have and where it's at, although that's a big
Right.
part of it, and that's a big part of what you do for your clients. It's also about, like you said, communication and timing.
Right.
Plays a big role. You've got to figure out what are your goals, what's the timing need to look like, and are you in a position to get there? All right. And that's
Yeah.
what you can help people figure out, is that timing, those goals, and you need to have a plan for retirement. What are you going to do? Right. That makes a big difference.
No, it's huge. And I'll be straight up with you, Tony. People ask me a lot of, how much longer I'm going to work and do this, that, and the other. I enjoy my work. I enjoy doing this. And I don't look at it as work. It's an extension of me. But and I think this is concerning for my wife from a standpoint that if down the road I were to back off and walk away from this, what would I do? Filling your days is something that has to happen when you retire. You can't just sit around on that couch and watch Jeopardy all day, man. That's not going to work.
Yeah.
So again, to people that are out there watching, listening, uh, think about what that day in, day out is going to look like once you don't have to punch that work clock anymore. And what do you want to do, and how do you want it to go about, happening? And the easy things are the trips. Everybody wants to travel and this, that, and the other, and all this stuff, but you're not going to travel 365 days a year. You're not going to play golf 365 days a year. So again, I don't care what it is. Maybe get in touch with, an entity where you can do some volunteer work, or mentor others that maybe are following along a path that you know something about, and do that. I don't know. I've got friends of mine who take on teaching college courses and things like that, because guess what? What better way to prepare the younger people in a college course than have somebody that's given 30 or 40 years to a profession of saying, hey guys, here's some things you're going to learn about that's not in the textbook. So again, just have something that you can lean into that makes sense for you, makes sense for your family. Hope and pray that your health stays viable and strong, that you can enjoy it, especially those first 10, 15 years of retirement. So make sure that you not only prepare yourself, like you said, Tony, financially for retirement, but you understand what that is going to look like, and prepare yourself to be able to fit into retirement. I think that's very, very important.
Yeah. Yeah, and you need to be, like you say, you've got to regularly review where you're at,
Right.
right, on your journey, whether it's before retirement or once you're in retirement. You've got to make sure that your plan is still viable, because things do change, right?
Right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then I think last but not least is prioritize those important aspects of your retirement vision, address them first. And
Yep.
and again, um, I tell everybody, every day in retirement is a Saturday. So whether you do all your shopping on Saturday,
Yep.
whether you do all your traveling on Saturday, when you retire, every day's a Saturday. So prioritize those things that are important to you. And who knows, they may be your kids, it may be your grandkids. Maybe you set up, if they live out of town or they live away from you, maybe you just set up quarterly visits, and let them know what's happening. Maybe I've got some clients, Tony, that take all of their family members. A couple of people do it once a year, some others do it 2 times a year, where they foot the entire bill and say there's no excuses about money, we're just talking about time. And they bring the kids and the grandkids, and sometimes siblings and other things, and we're off to the Disney worlds of the world and things like that, or trips and adventures, to where they get to share, and
Hmm.
they get to guarantee themselves 3, 4, 5 times a year family time, which is very, very important to them. So it's things to look at and think. um, I heard something the other day that kids spell love Time.
With time
Time.
spent with them.
And
Yep.
I think the older I get, probably the greatest resource that we have to give to anyone is our time.
Yep.
And
I would agree.
so those are things that I think are very important. And I think you have to prioritize that. I don't think it happens by happenstance. I think with anything else, you need to, write it down, put it in paper form, or whatever it takes you to do to operate, much like you did when you were working. You set those visions and those priorities and those goals up, so that, hey, look, here's some things we're thinking about doing. Run it by the powers that be to see if it makes sense, and then try to start following through with it. So again, start early, be open, honest, review regularly, prioritize what you want to have done, and make it happen. And then, make sure you're including all people and decision makers, and listen, uh, and understand that you don't always have to be right. That's probably one of the greatest things I can give you as
Yeah.
advice.
That's good advice. Yeah, you gotta come to grips with that realization. You don't
Yeah.
always have to be right. You just need to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
And I'll say that by saying I'm the pot calling the kettle black here, man. So yeah, I'm the biggest one in the world that has that issue. So
yeah,
anyway,
what is that all about? You always tell me that you're right and I'm
yeah,
wrong.
I know,
No,
Tony.
you
Yeah,
no, you don't. Hey, great show today, but I think the bottom line is to get started and get a written plan in place and see where you're at. Are
yeah.
you on track to meet your retirement goals? You have to work with a trusted fiduciary, a financial professional who's going to look out for your best interests. And you offer a no charge, no obligation consultation. You'd love to hear from our listeners and viewers. How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, there's several different ways. You can reach out to us. Give us a call here at the office. Our local number here in Louisville is 502-632-3340. You can go to aroberts.com, our website, arobertsassociates.com. At our website, it's got the ability through our website to link up with us. You can go email us at info@abundantretirementplanning. Again, info@abundantretirementplanning.com, and we'll respond to that email. But one of our team members, if you reach out here, we'll set you up with an initial consultation. We'll get together. We'll talk for 30, 40, 50 minutes, whatever the case may take. Get to know each other a little bit better. See if we can find some common ground with understanding what you got going on, what your objectives are, what you're trying to accomplish. See if we can help you. Maybe we can, maybe we can't. But until you sit there down and start having some conversation, we won't really know. But yeah, there's no charges for that. If we gather some data and start putting together some preliminary, modeling and reports for you, there's no charges for that second appointment. And then, beyond that, if we decide working together maybe makes sense for all of us, then we'll definitely, we're very transparent about going through how we get paid, what we do, how we charge people to work with us and different things like that. So those would be some of the things we do. So yeah, reach out to us by phone, reach out to us by our website, reach out to us by email. Those are all ways that you can contact us.
All right. Sounds great. And the web address one more time is arobertsassociates.com. And thanks for tuning in. Tony, great show. Listeners and viewers, that does it for today's episode of Abundant Retirement with our host, Tony Roberts.